Well, if I keep it up, I'm going to have to start building another shelf. And it happens every time I get into a subject that I dearly love, because I can't quite come down exactly where I wanted to on it, because I'm in a different place in consciousness than I was when I originally started learning and speaking about the subject. And our subject today is abundance. And why, you say, is it abundance? Because that is our first core value. Do you see up here? These, both the mission and the vision and the core values, came out of our workshop last weekend. And I said to a couple people when Reverend Mo stood here and said, and for the next 6 weeks, you're going to go over one core value a week. I thought, oh man, that isn't what I had planned. As it turned out, I was planning on a whole month of nothing but prosperity teachings. Won't you know, or don't you know? Well, the first one is abundance, our core value. You chose that. So it works. So somehow, some way, I'm going to put prosperity into all of our core values, because I believe that it is absolutely, the teachings are vital, absolutely vital to what we believe and what we practice in unity. And to that end, I am also going to have a class beginning, I believe, either the 18th or the 25th, at either one of those Saturdays. And it will be a 4-credit class, and it will be on Unity's prosperity teachings. And I'm going to touch on a couple of them today, but mostly I wanted to talk today as it relates to a core value of abundance. And what exactly does that mean? Does it mean I'm abundant in that I have a lot of money in the bank? Most of us in Unity know that is part of abundance, but it has really, it's a byproduct of having a consciousness of abundance, which is my talk title today. So I'm going to go back to some old tools that we all use. If you're unfamiliar with some of these tools, I would ask that you make yourself familiar with them, because they can be very helpful in understanding a lot of our principles and a lot of the metaphysics of what Unity proposes. And since we are going to be dealing with our own core values, we chose these 6 on a regular basis in the next few months. I'm also going to ask if there are any of you, and you may want to take this to prayer and think about it, who would be willing to come up with 6 banners. On each banner is a core value, and we will actually hang them here in the sanctuary. They can be artwork, they could be, probably will be artwork. I'm not talking a poster now. I'm talking something that's got heart in it. It can have material to it, it can be a painting, but each core value will hang on its own place, in its own place. And that way we have it right here, front and center, all 6 of them. We'll essentially do the same thing with the mission and the vision statements after we have finished tweaking them. I think we have an opportunity to kind of go back over for those of you that were not present at the workshop but wanted to have input. So that's just something I throw out there into consciousness. All right, let's go with abundance. This is from Revealing Word, one of these handy-dandy little tools. And the Revealing Word is a dictionary of metaphysical terms. So what is abundance? Abundance, spiritual ideas in consciousness of the omnipresent supply and support of mind, capital M. Invisible substance with infinite capacity of expansion when held in the mind, affirmed and praised. Abundance, the steps in demonstrating abundance. First, we must recognize abundance as an idea that is real and has the power to expand. Then we must talk abundance, choose words representing abundance, and thus build up an invisible world of substance. In this way, we build or form in our mind that which draws to us an abundance of every good thing. Now, before some of you say, what the heck did she just say? Let's go over here to consciousness. That's a word we like to really throw around. Consciousness is the sense of awareness of knowing, the knowledge or realization of any idea, object, or condition, the sum total of all ideas accumulated in and affecting man's present being. Divine ideas must be incorporated into your consciousness before they can mean anything to us. An intellectual concept does not suffice. To be satisfied with an intellectual understanding leaves us subject to sin, sickness, poverty, and death. To assure continuity of spirit, soul, and body as a whole, we must ever seek to incorporate divine ideas into our minds. What? I think most of you clearly understand what was just read. You see, when we say we have abundance, I think that we should be saying we have a consciousness of abundance. Meaning, we understand that mind is a divine idea, and that divine idea, once we lay hold of it in our mind, has no end, has endless possibilities. And that is where the abundance of ideas comes in. Abundance relates to your knowing in your own consciousness that you have infinite supply and that God is your source of supply. And you are willing to put the feet to it. And we'll get to the feet in a minute, because the feet, when I'm talking about feet, I'm talking about tithing. Oh, you say, oh, please don't go there, not today. And does she realize it is Super Bowl? We don't want to be here all afternoon. We're going to be here as long as it takes, because as I said, these prosperity, abundance issues are very, very vital to what we believe and how we walk the talk. So I'm going to read this to you from Fillmore's book entitled Prosperity. This is true riches, not an accumulation of money, but access to an inexhaustible resource that can be drawn on at any time to meet any demand. When a person has this rich consciousness, there's no necessary for laying up gold or accumulating stocks and bonds or other property to ensure future supply. Such a one may be most generous with his wealth without fear of depletion, because his rich ideas will keep him in constant touch with abundance. You see, you can have a lot of money in the bank and not have an abundance or a consciousness of abundance. Consciousness of abundance is when you have health and wealth in all you do. In your health, in your body, in your mind. And the way that we speak the words of abundance are through affirmations and denials. So when you have thoughts of lack, I don't have enough, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, you rinse those, if you will, with denials. And then you affirm you have all the abundance, all the supply you will ever need, because the supply is not what we count that's in the bank, it's the supply of divine ideas that are inexhaustible, never ending. If you want abundance, then your ideas must be abundant. You must know and believe you have only one source. Yes, there are many channels to that source. You're a channel of the source of the abundance of divine ideas. You know people that bring you messages, that bring you experiences. All are channels of divine ideas. But you only have one source, and that source is God. That is our first principle, one presence, one power. Everywhere present, all good. That is the source of your supply, and you can count on that source all the time. And that is also the inexhaustible supply of unconditional love and ideas that will help us expand our consciousness of abundance. And you always have that if you choose to call on it. Emily Cady said in Lessons in Truth, there is a lavish abundance for every human want. The supply of good always awaits the demand, always awaits the demand. And here's the kicker. The demand must be made before the supply can come forth to fill it. In other words, it's not enough knowing you have an infinite source of supply in divine ideas. You must demand it, expect it, call on it, and not wait around for hopefully the good to come. So the demand must be made, meaning I declare I am a child of God. I declare I am infinitely abundant. I declare that my one source is God, and that God, that mind, that intelligence has all the ideas of abundance I will ever need. And when you walk around with that in your consciousness, you literally have a consciousness of abundance. You are a walking, talking, abundant goodness. Your thoughts are all good. Or when they're not, when there's a slippage, we're human, you work on replacing those thoughts of lack or doubt with thoughts of affirmative good. You make a declaration. Now I'll give you these. This is an old-timer from early Unity, Georgiana Tree West. Georgiana Tree West wrote this lovely book, among other things. She was, by the way, one of the senior ministers at the New York City Unity. If any of you have been to that particular Unity, oh, do go. It is a huge hall. It's wonderful. And Eric Butterworth was the minister there for a long time. You've heard me refer to Eric several times. Well, Georgiana came up with these 10 prosperity affirmations. And this may help make it a little more realistic. It's also something that you can tack up on a mirror, put in your wallet, but don't. Either learn them or put them away. And I don't usually say that, but when it comes to prosperity and knowing who you are, and the child of God that you are with access to infinite supply to feed you, my goodness, why not learn them? Why not have them ready, at the ready? So here she goes. There's only 10. It won't take long. Be still. I look only to God for my prosperity. I make no mental images of lack. I speak no word of limitation. I let go and let God work in my affairs. I deal honorably with God and all God's pay clerks. What does that mean, you say? You and I are pay clerks of God. And we need to deal, I won't say need, we will affirm dealing with all of God's pay clerks with honor, meaning you give the maximum you can give, and you receive and demand the maximum back in the giving and the receiving. I deal honorably with God and all God's pay clerks. I keep my wealth circulating wisely. Have you seen some of the folks that make a lot of money with the lottery, and then they're interviewed several years later, and it's all gone? There is no wisdom in that circulation. There is no abundance in consciousness. They have a lot of money, and they don't have a lot of money. I use my wealth for good purposes only. I never strive to get something for nothing. I read that one to a friend of mine, and she said, now wait a minute. I like a good deal just like everybody else. A good deal is not getting something for nothing, okay? If you've struck a good deal, both sides have worked that street, okay? Something for nothing is really a less than abundant consciousness kind of thinking. I never talk poverty. I tell the truth about God's abundance. I take my eye off my neighbor's wealth and I claim my own. Sometimes we get all excited about our neighbor's wealth, meaning money in the bank, cars in the garage, big house. Oh, wow. And instead of claiming our own abundance, we are very busy being envious and jealous, which is a lack form of consciousness of our neighbors. I want to touch on one other thing, and that is faith. Faith in the prosperity teachings that we have is absolutely essential. Faith is the perceiving power of the mind to form substance. And some of you may have to work with that one. Faith is that consciousness in us of the reality of the invisible substance and of the attributes of mind by which we lay hold of it. It is through faith that we demonstrate our abundance and our consciousness of abundance. We believe in what we cannot see, but we believe that we have the shaping power of the mind to access all divine ideas and bring them forth through us into manifestation. These are very deep metaphysical teachings, and they take a while to lay hold of them. But when you finally realize and know that you are a child of God with access to infinite, endless supply of divine ideas. And that, my friends, is your abundance. And that abundance will manifest itself in your health and your wealth, and also in your peace of mind. You will not worry about not having enough. That will not occur to you. Thoughts of lack and debt will not bother you. You will not have necessarily all of the resources to pay for that, but you do have all of the resources. Some of you are saying, wow, that's a contradiction. No, if you believe that you have the source of divine ideas, you always have an endless supply of solving all your issues, of bringing to bear on every aspect of your life an abundance consciousness. But you must choose to have the abundance in the consciousness. We can read about it, we can talk about it, and I can preach about it. But until you understand that you have that and actually know that, and the power and the freedom that comes from knowing, you have all that you need right here and right now, and understanding that that source is God, and God is the only source of your supply. Prosperity is the degree you experience peace, health, and plenty in your world. Now think about that. As you're walking around your world today, what's your experience of peace, of health, and of plenty? Do you even experience it? Or are you thinking, well, I don't have any pain today, so I guess that's pretty good. I'm rolling right along here. That's not an abundance of consciousness or an abundance in consciousness. That's just going along to get along and hope the other shoe doesn't drop. That's not why we're here. That is not at all why we are here, folks. Our divine inheritance is to claim the ideas of spirit, the divine ideas, to claim and demand our prosperity right here and right now. And a small way that you can begin to do that is bless what you have. Bless it. Even if you have 10 cents in your wallet, bless it. Because it is in the blessing you automatically bring your consciousness up higher. You say, I'm open to this abundance. I'm open to it. And so I will bless everyone and everything in my life. And I will not think that I only have 10 cents. I have 10 cents. I am blessed. Try that kind of thinking to get into this consciousness of abundance. One last thing, well, two last things. Along with blessing what you have, you can also use your imagination. And that's where we come to actually picturing in your mind's eye what it is that you want to manifest, and then working with divine ideas to manifest it. Now, some people like to call this treasure mapping. Some people call it, well, we put a picture up on the wall and we say, hey, that's what I want next week. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actually using your power of imagination and actually picturing and seeing what it is that you want, what it is that you demand, and making that connection with divine ideas. It's not your mind, it's divine mind who you have asked in to picture what it is that you desire, and oh, by the way, what it is that you demand. Tithing. All right, I'll just say it. Tithing hastens your good on all levels. And some will say, well, I tithe. Well, let's get real. Tithing is 10% of your gross, not your net. It's 10% of the gross of all that you receive. Why tithing? It means 10. It comes from the ancients. It's just passed on. Generally we say 10% of your gross. Now, some of you will say, gee, we were going along real nice here, and now it's kind of sounding a little too realistic here. I don't necessarily tithe. I don't believe in tithing. And 10% seems like a mighty lot. You see, the deal with tithing is this. Tithe and tithe and tithe. You don't have to count it up to 10. Tithing is giving. And when we give, we receive. Now, some of you are automatically translating that into, oh, so you mean if I tithe, I'm going to get something. No, you give to elevate your consciousness. You give from a consciousness of abundance. And the universe always, always will help you and give back to you. Maybe not in the form you're thinking of, but you will always, always receive. And God loves, as we know, a cheerful giver. So don't be giving or tithing with an expectation that you're going to get something. Don't give it because, well, that's what they say I should do. I don't really want to give it. Well, then don't give it. But understand this, when you tithe, any of us tithe, and we do it on a regular basis. I'm not talking about writing one check at the end of the year for tax purposes, folks. No, I'm talking about the tithing principle of when you give, you shall receive. And to be a gracious receiver, you must know how to give. Where do we give? Say the teachings. You give where you're spiritually fed. And if it isn't your church and you're not spiritually fed, well, find a place where you're spiritually fed. Now that's a Sandyism. But some people will say to me, oh, but we have to give to the church. You don't have to do anything. You see, when you put the half in front of it, you're not in abundance consciousness. You've got a string attached to it. No, when we give unconditionally. We give from the heart. And that's what tithing is about. It isn't a process necessarily that you have to embrace. But as Eric Butterworth said, until you really know what tithing is about, you give your 10%, you call it training wheels on the bike. And once you're used to giving the 10%, the training wheels come off, and then all you know how to do is tithe. All you ever do is tithe. And by the way, while we're on tithing, remember it's tithing of time, of talent, and of treasure. So the treasure, we got that, don't we? Time and talent, especially in church, very, very important. So are you tithing? Just a question. Giving and receiving, and expecting. Are you expecting your abundance? Really? I expect you to expect your abundance. It is never ending, and God is our source. And now I really feel my face is flushed, so I'm going to sit down and say, God bless you.